So your first term was memorable and showed that God was already starting to work. Tell us about your second and third terms.
Well, we thought we had a humdinger of a first term. Well, our second term started out with an even bigger one and a really trying of the faith. And that was our children had to move. The boarding school had to move because of the rebel activity in the Casamas. So they moved it up to northern part in Dakar, Rufisque, Dakar. And while they were here, they had rented a Bible Institute that had not been used for 5 years. Little did they know that the well water was contaminated. And the new people at the school, they were filtering, but they weren't soaking the veggies. And when the kids, teenagers, are washing their faces, they noticed that the kids were starting to break out. And a rare bacteria got into my daughter's eye until half of her face swelled up and she had pus coming out of her eyes. And we didn't know that it hit into her spleen. And so I get a phone call and I said, you need to get up here because she's fighting for her life. And so I called my mother and told her to get all of our supporting churches to pray because Elise was fighting. We get to the airport and I begged the guy on Air Senegal, do you have any space? He said, there's no space. I said, my daughter is fighting for her life. I need to get up there. And he allowed me to get on. The missionary picked me up at the airport and they had taken her for x-ray and there was a big abscess. You could hardly see her spleen. And the missionary doctor, people say is by chance. It's not. God had everybody in the right place at the right time. Because the missionary doctor that was there visiting from northern Senegal, he spent the night and he explained things to me. And he spent the night on an infested cockroach room on a piece of foam, sleeping under her bed to keep her going through the night. And she couldn't talk to me. She just looked at me and I couldn't even see my daughter's ear. Her face was so swollen. And they said she had a staph infection. So people are praying at home and she's fighting. They put the IV and she had antibiotics fighting. And finally she said, I remember the night before we're supposed to fly out, she said, Mommy, ask God to just take me home. And that was the night that I climbed Abraham's mountain. I said, Lord, I can't do it alone, but you have to carry me. And I fell asleep praying that. And I woke up in the morning and she was still with me. But I gave her to the Lord, just like Isaac, like Abraham gave Isaac. And Barney and the doctor, because he had to fly home with us. And we got on Air France. And the Canadian Embassy gave us a special card, and Barney carried our daughter up. We were in first class, and I was sitting right behind in the boat because we didn't have money for both. And the doctor was with me, and I had to keep checking on my daughter until we got to France. And the doctor kept giving her shots all the way home, and then somewhere over the Pacific, the Atlantic, God started to do a miracle in her life, and then they put her in a wheelchair and we took her to the Children's Hospital in London, Ontario, and everybody landed in on her. And the doctor there said to me, I've only seen 5 other cases that had this exact same thing. And she's the only one living. So God worked it out. So we were home for 3 months. I was home for 3 months. Barney was on the field by himself, and he's the only man on our station and directing the field and getting Shauna to boarding school. So, but God answered and we came back and she finished the school year on time.
Yeah, that was, anyhow, that was Elise, and she's married. She has 4 children. Lord for that.
And they're in Japan.
So that was a trying time, but yeah, it was very encouraging. We also were able to travel to Liberia and to do teaching there and to see the impact of civil war in the country. In our third term, began a newer phase of our ministry. We had previously bought property for the mission so that we could have a guest house. and an administrative center there in Bonjul, so that we can better support the mission station, which is on the other side, the north side of the Gambia River, where most of the missionaries were located. And then as we get into our fourth term, we saw the complete completion of the guest house, and then we began to lay the foundation for the beginning of an international church.
And we also helped a lot of young people that had not been discipled to help them walk, and they got repatriated back to their countries. And I had the opportunity to work with a lot of refugee women from Liberia and help them, teaching them to sew and do quilts, like patching their life back together from what was destroyed.